Sportsline says Baylor by 9. No worries. Whew.
Wow.
Randy,
easy, I guess. Huh?
That easy?
Well, I'm looking at this thing, and I think Baker Mayfield can get some work done against this defense. I know Samaje Perine can get some done. My favorite linebacker in America, best name usage since the movie Airplane, Eric Stryker.
Stryker.
It's unbelievable. I think this defense plays against Baylor, matches up well with these guys, and I think they pull it off. At Baylor, they beat Baylor.
Ooh. I'm with you. I think it's an Oklahoma kind of game. I think they got beat 48-14. That sticks in your craw. They're going to be an angry team going into Baylor. Baylor gave up a lot of rushing yardage to Kansas State. They showed a formula. Kansas State also possessed the ball for 38 minutes. If they are patient in Norman, if they'll figure out a game plan that allows Samaje Perine, allows Joe Mixon to run the ball, use Baker Mayfield, but not so that you're trying to go up and down the field in such haste that you're turning the ball back over to a very, very potent offense, I think they've got a chance to steal this one, and I'm expecting Oklahoma to win.
So I was right. Run the ball.
Run the ball. Run.
I'm with you, Rick. Last week in that game, watching Kansas State, they were able to stop the run. They were able to run the football. When you look at this Oklahoma team defensively, they are as good on defense as they are, except they rush the passer quite a bit better than Baylor does. They lead the conference with sacks with 33. You mentioned Eric Stryker. He has 7.5. They've got a gang of guys that have 2+. They come from every which way. Baylor looked a little bit pedestrian to me offensively a week ago. They got the win, but it wasn't in impressive fashion. So Stidham did well, but I think this Oklahoma defense can rattle him and win this game on the road.
I thought I was going to be the only one picking Oklahoma. You guys, y'all stole my thunder.
They did it for you.
I know. That's what I get for batting cleanup, right? Allow them to steal my thunder. It's going to be about the rushing game. You've hit all the points about what they've allowed Baylor the last couple of weeks. And Oklahoma has been running the ball, and you've been asking them to do that. 52, 57, 42, or excuse me, 49
Over
and
250 yards each of their last 3 games.
Those have been the attempts the last 4 weeks. So they're trying to get back to more balance. Defensive side, they can get Zach Sanchez back in the fold. They think they will have him back at one cornerback position. I like Oklahoma to win this one.
Wow. So we all love Art Briles. We're all picking Oklahoma.
Love Art.
By the way, he'll play this over and over.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Our gift to
Bears. You guys are a good team, Baylor.
Let's start with the 4 teams: Ohio State, Bama, Clemson, and Notre Dame. Do you have a problem with it?
I would have put Baylor in there. I think Baylor's been dominant thus far. They've got a 20-game home winning streak. Winning matters in college football, clearly not to the committee. I think Baylor needs something like a really solid loss to a 3-loss team in order to really improve their resume and get them up there to number 2.
Baylor's schedule now gets really tough.
This is what I hope that the committee views the schedule and through this lens is everyone knocked the Big 12, and rightly so for their early season schedule. Is the SEC going to get the same treatment for their weak November schedule? Because it's the weakest among all the Power 5 conferences when Charleston Southern is going to go to Tuscaloosa. So I'm very interested to see. I feel like the SEC is given a pass because it's late in the season when they're playing all these cupcakes in November when everyone else is going through the gauntlet, including the Big Ten, who's also very backloaded, just like the Big 12.
Do we have some X-Files music? Because he's got a theory.
Uh-oh.
Here is the Joel Klatt theory. I asked you about the committee.
Well, yeah, and I'm trying to lock down the actual criteria because what Jeff Long tells us is not actually true because it doesn't fit all the different spots, right? Where Ohio State is ranked doesn't fit where Baylor is ranked because they essentially have the same resume. They haven't played anybody, and yet Ohio State is up there at number 3, and Baylor is dropped down. Oklahoma State gets a great win at home against TCU, who was 20-1 in their last 2 years and only jumps up to 8. Didn't make any sense. So I'm trying to figure out, well, what is the actual criteria? And I landed on a geographical and schematic criteria. And it's very clear to me. If you play east of the Mississippi, you're going to be looked on very favorably than if you're west of the Mississippi.
Okay, so you're saying the committee likes the Big Ten and the SEC.
Absolutely. When you look at the 10 teams that the Big Ten and SEC have ranked, 60% of them, 6 of 10, are ranked higher in the playoff rankings than they are in the AP poll.
Okay, interesting.
Yes.
So 6 of 10 teams, Big Ten and SEC, the committee thinks better than the AP poll.
That's right. Then the 61 or 2 voters in the AP poll. Remember, it's just 12 people, so the margin.
Now, but what is the committee doing with the Pac-12 and the Big 12.
This is where it gets interesting because
X-Files music,
you
here
could
we go.
say, 60% is just 60%. Well, of the 7 teams ranked in the Pac-12 and the Big 12, 0 are ranked higher in the playoff rankings than they are in the AP rankings.
Okay.
That's not a coincidence. That's a trend. That's a criteria.
So now here's what's interesting from Klatt, and it's very interesting. I think he makes a very good point. You're not kooky madookie on this. Your belief is look at who's on the committee.
That's right. All you have to do is look at who's on the committee and who's most influential on the committee. I said this last week. Barry Alvarez is very clearly the most influential person on the committee, and number 2 on that list is Tom Osborne because schematics are starting to matter as well. If you play in a phone booth, if you play pro style of offense and you like to run the ball and stop the run, they love you.
That's what they coached.
They love you.
Osborne and Barry Alvarez love that.
They think that you pass the eye test, not these teams that are playing modern offense. So they're communicating right now with an old phone book and a rotary phone. And if you use Facebook, it ain't happening for you.
Okay, so what you're saying makes a lot of sense, that the old school guys who have leverage on the committee, it's almost like, certain people in Congress have leverage, right? Because they're in Congress for, it was, the guy in Massachusetts, Ted Kennedy, Tip O'Neill. If you're in Congress long enough, you have influence. You're saying Barry and Tom are sitting up there going, boys, those teams pass the eyeball test. Those flaky teams out west,
that's right.
They're no good.
I've got a number for you. And these are these are statistics. So you can't argue with me. I'm not trying to throw bias out there any direction. I just think that the committee is showing their cards.
Sure.
Right? They're trying to tell us it's one thing, but it's really another. They're like Kaiser Soze of Usual Suspects, It's like the greatest trick Kaiser Soze or the devil ever pulled is making people think he didn't exist.
Right.
The greatest trick that this committee is pulling is making people believe that these rankings don't matter and that the criteria that they're throwing out does matter, because it clearly doesn't. Right now, the schematics and the belief is that the SEC plays great defense. And while I would agree, Alabama played great defense against LSU. There's no question about that, stopping Leonard Fournette with just 7 in the box. I think that you have to use different metrics when you're looking at higher number of possessions in some conferences versus other conferences. Let me just throw this out to you, and this is 100% fact. Take from it what you will. In the Alabama-LSU game, there were 2.09 points per possession scored in the game overall, okay? If you go to the TCU-Oklahoma State game that I was at, very impressive performance from Oklahoma State defensively, even though they gave up 600 yards. Guess how many points per possession were given up in the game as a whole? 2.05.
So what you're saying
it was actually a better game defensively than the SEC game, but no one wants to look at that per possession. All they want to do is look at totals, yards, and points, which are clearly not the metric you can use to view the Big 12 and the Pac-12 as opposed to the Big 10 and the SEC.
The second college football playoff ranking. Now, last week, I had my top 4 of Ohio State, Bama, Clemson, and Stanford. I believe those are the 4 best teams in the country. I have Notre Dame 5th. Stanford, Notre Dame play later in the year. I'll take Stanford at home to win narrowly. I did not buy LSU. I got hate mail. They lost. I did not buy TCU. I predicted they'd lose. I got hate mail. They lost. I don't buy Baylor. They won ugly, but they will lose very soon. Their next 3 games are Oklahoma, at Oklahoma State, and at TCU. They're not losing 1. They're losing at least 2. And Iowa, your schedule's weak. I've watched your team play 3 times. You will go undefeated until early December in the Big Ten championship game when you face Ohio State and get pounded by 3 touchdowns. So tonight, I know you think I'm crazy, but I strongly believe I have seen the 4 best teams in the country in no particular order. Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson, and Stanford. I said it last week. I said it the week before. I didn't buy into TCU. I don't buy into Iowa. I don't buy into Baylor. And I did not buy into LSU. We predicted they'd get smoked by Alabama, and they did. So you can line up the Twitter account, the Facebook, the emails, the tweets. But I think we know the 4 best teams in the country. I've watched them all, and I don't think there's even a big argument. I don't think there's a big argument. The closest I see to not in but should be potentially is Notre Dame. They will travel to Palo Alto to face Stanford later in the year. Well, that will be decided on the field.
had a lot of success with guys that can really run. Try to keep that trend going every year.
We pride off explosive plays, and that's what we look for to get in every drive. We want to score fast, and that's what our coach preaches all the time, score fast.
Get our guys in space and let them get in one-on-one situations and go in.
Corey, he's just a freak of nature.
I never seen him have a bad day, even if it was bad. I mean, it was great to me.
Strives to be the best at everything he does, so you can't stop him.
If the ball's in the air and Corey and the cornerback are going for it, it is a very safe bet that Corey's going to get it.
He's always, I want to be first, I want to be the best and all that. Can't tell him no.
Corey wants to win at everything. If you're walking from here to there, he wants to beat you walking from here to there.
Wake up and want to be great. That's his personality with everything.
I'm a passionate player. I really don't lose. I don't want to sound super cocky or anything, but I have a hard time losing.
Art Briles says he burns hot. And it's something that the Baylor coaches actually had to work on in practice because Corey would drive his teammates insane. He would treat practice reps or even off-season conditioning reps the same way he would treat a game. When Coleman catches the ball, one of his more common pieces of trash talk is to turn to the corner or to the sideline and say, "I'm the best receiver in America." And you know what? He might be right.
He wants to get the ball in his hands every play and score. That's what he thrives off of.
He's got a lot of touchdowns because he's good.
You know, I feel like I have zero because when you do that, it makes you hungry and want to do even better.
Yeah, it's fourth quarter. We were up 15 at the time, 3rd and 5. Seth elected to keep the ball on the play, and you know, unfortunately, was trying to get a first down, lowered his head, and got hit wrong.
3rd down and 5, a keeper for Russell. He is met.
He takes a good helmet-to-helmet shot there, pretty clean as both players are making a football move.
I was right there when it happened. Seth got up. He said, "Corey, I'm going left." I was like, "What do you mean?" He was like, "I'm going left." And coach called a play, and Seth was trying to call a timeout, but he couldn't even raise his hand up to call a timeout. And at the time, I was like, "Seth, snap the ball." And then his eyes just got big, and I knew right then, like, something was wrong with him.
Second-ranked Baylor Bears' worst fears were confirmed on Monday. Starting QB Seth Russell will miss the rest of the season after a specialist confirmed he will need neck surgery.
It was pretty hard, you know, because Seth is like a big role model to the offense.
It was heartbreaking, you know, when I heard the news. I was so sad because I know how hard he's worked.
He came in the weight room the other day. He was like, don't try to play for me. Just keep your mind on the main goal that we had before I got hurt.
With Seth Russell going down, Jarrett Stidham taking over, the receiving corps kind of has to help pick up the slack because there's a true freshman coming in to play quarterback. He can't be relied on to do everything.
Obviously, we're different, but we feel like the young guy we got can play a little bit. So we're going to throw it around. We're going to make sure that we continue to do what we do.
We have a senior O-line, Elma Jr., you got Jay Lee, who's a senior receiver, and, you know, great guys around him to lift him up, even though, you know, everything's not going to be perfect and go the way he wants it to go.
He has got to make sure that Jarrett Stidham knows, I got this. I'm going to be where you need me to be. I'm going to make plays when you throw me the ball. You might be the best receiver in the country, and now it's time to really show that and make your quarterback look really good. All Corey needs to do is stay as competitive as he's always been. If that fire keeps burning, he's going to put Baylor in a position to be in the playoff, to compete for a national title.
I mean, there's nothing that kid can't do. He's very driven. He's going to take care of himself off the field, so that's not going to hold him down.
Definitely, I want to be the best receiver in the nation.
If he doesn't stay another year, then I can see him being a great player in the league. He reminds me of Steve Smith. Just wants the ball all the time, wants to score.
Dreamed since I was 5 years old, go to the NFL, be a top draft pick, be one of the best there too.
Definitely feel like Corey's going to be in the NFL and be a success in the NFL because who's going to keep him out? This is a guy who will not let anybody stop him.